Alright gang, today we're going to talk about the proper way to make wire terminations, wire connections, how to properly put on wire nuts. You know, just because a wire nut is a certain color doesn't mean it's for the same size wire. And that may sound simple, but a lot of people don't understand that. You know, you can fit 10 number 12 conductors in here. You can't even fit one number 12 conductor in this one. You know what I'm saying? It's common sense, but that doesn't register with a lot of people. And I'm doing this because I just came from a family member's house who, when was it, Tuesday, they had an electrician come in and put some, I think he put a GFCI outlet in the kitchen and then wired the rest of the outlets in the kitchen along the counter on that same GFCI. And when they turned on their microwave, this happened yesterday, the microwave ran fine for a few seconds, then it started bogging down. The turntable started rotating slower, and anything that was plugged into those receptacles wasn't working properly. So I went over and found a bad connection. It wasn't tight. A connection that's not tight causes heat, it draws more amperage, and it can burn your house down. There's 51,000 electrical fires that burn down houses every year in America. 11% of those are caused by poor connections because they create heat. A loose connection creates heat. So we'll go, and everything I'm telling you, this isn't my opinion. This isn't the way I figured out how to do it. I went to school for 2 years for residential and industrial electricity, and I was a multi-craft maintenance technician in a forge and foundry for almost 20 years, which they sent me to school for 2 years for electrical engineering. So I am qualified to do this. And the way I'm going to show you to do it isn't my way. It's not an opinion of how it should be done. It's by the book how you're taught to do it, how they want it done. The NEC, the Uglies book. Read them. It'll tell you the same exact shit I'm going to tell you right now. So let's get started. All right, first and foremost, we'll clean up a little bit. Let's talk about how to properly put on a wire nut. So let's say you're putting together 3 wires. Where the hell did my good strippers go? There they are. I'm using 12 gauge wire. So I'm going to use the 12 gauge portion of my wire strippers. Now I'm going to strip off way more insulation than I need to, and you'll see why here in a minute. Well, it's not more than you need to. It ends up being correct. So I get that one. And be neat about it. Roughly make them all the same. And to strip the wire, put them in your strippers, close them, give them a little bit of a twist. Wire will come right off. If you don't give them that twist, you fight it. No reason to fight it. Now watch, no twist. Twist, okay. So you got your 3 wires. You always want to twist in a clockwise motion because that's the way the wire nut screws on. If you twist them counterclockwise and screw the wire nut on, it unfurls them inside of that wire nut. So you're going to get your bundle. You're going to start them by hand. One twist by hand. Then you're going to grab your linesman's pliers. This is really hard to do when they're not connected to anything at the other end. I didn't think this through. Your linesman's pliers. You want to hold everything. Get one good twist started. Make sure everything's held nice and tight. Then and you don't want to squeeze them so tight that you're breaking the insulation. Like I said, when you're doing this, this will be in a box. These will be connected at the other end, so it's actually way easier. You got a really good, nice, tight twist. So, and that's why you make them long, so you have something to grab onto. Then you cut them off just a little bit shorter than the length of the inside of your wire nut. Then you put your wire nut on. Then you're going to grab the wires again with your linesman's. You're going to take a regular pair of pliers or channel locks. And you're going to twist that on there and make sure it's nice and tight. And notice I have my pliers open to their widest setting. That way I'm not squeezing the nut to the point where I crack it. And then when you look down inside the nut, you don't want to see any copper sticking out of the nut. You want to see it about 1/8 inch in there. That's the proper way to do it. For your grounds, and I see this all the time, and this is the wrong way of doing it. So you'll have 3 grounds in your box, or maybe more. You don't know, however many wires are coming into that box. So you're going to take your grounds. It's pretty much the same idea. Clockwise twist. You're going to get them started by hand, just like so. Like I said, when they're in the box, actually in the sheath of the Romex, it's way easier. You're going to hold on to them with your linesman's pliers. Make sure your bends are nice and neat. Then you're going to twist. You get a nice twist. Then you cut these ones off. Okay? Then you're going to use a wire nut like this. It has a hole in it. It's made specifically for this. They make them this way for a reason. Because a lot of what you'll see is them just twisted together like this inside the box and then terminated on, the receptacle, outlet, whatever you got. That's not the right way to do it because they can come undone. Your holy nut goes on. Twist it over. Same deal. These have wings, so you don't have to grab them with your pliers, but you're going to twist them just as tight as you can. Nice and tight. Then you can take and do the same thing. The way you'd wire up any other receptacle. Make your loop, and you're ready to go. That's the right way to do your grounds. Alright, the correct way to put wire on a receptacle. There's 2 ways of doing it, 2 acceptable ways. One, I kind of disagree with, but it does work. See this plate that I'm lifting up? You can take, I'm out of black wire. I'll have to improvise here. I'm out of black solid wire. This is stranded. I'm not that stupid. Alright. Alright, so you got your wire. If you're going to do the plate method, most receptacles, these ones don't for some reason, they come with what's called a strip gauge on the back of them. You'd hold that wire up against that strip gauge, that tells you how much to strip off. So for this one that doesn't, I'm going to stick that wire in there, hold it with my thumb where I need to strip it. I'm going to strip that much off. And it goes underneath the plate. Then you crank her down. And you want them tight. You want a good tight connection. I mean, you see how hard I was screwing that in. I didn't break it, but you want it nice and tight. the other way, the way I like doing it, the way I was taught to do it. Leave that plate in the down position. Take your wire. Strip off a good 3/4 of an inch. Yep, a little bit more. Okay? And I always use my wire cutters because they're in my hand when I do this. You give a slight bend. Then you make a nice tight loop, right? And that tight loop, so your screw tightens in the clockwise position. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. You want that loop on your wire, the open end of that loop goes towards the way the wire, the screw tightens, because when you tighten that screw down, it'll actually squeeze that wire together. But what I like to do, like I said, I don't take any chances with wiring. I take my needle nose, I get them in there, and I pinch that wire together. Then I tighten down. You see there's no big bulge of wire sticking out anywhere. It's nice and neat, and it's a good solid connection. That's a good connection. I'll show you what happens when you put them on the wrong way. Now you can see that's a good nice tight loop, right? I'm going to put this on the wrong way. See, that's the wrong way. Now when you tighten it, no matter how I hold that on there, see how it wants to push it back out? That's what you want to avoid. So always make sure your hook is facing the right way, going with the way the wire, the screw tightens. And we'll do it one more time, just so nobody watches this last part and says, oh, that's the way he's got it done. I'm going to take that same hook that I screwed up by putting it on the wrong way. I'm going to give it a little bit of a straighten. See how it actually spread that hook too. Remember how tight that was. I'm just going to give it a slight squeeze to make it a nice tight loop again. And I'm going to put it on. And I'm not even going to do my needle nose deal again. I'm just going to tighten it up. And watch how much better it turns out. See how it pulled itself in? And see that little bulge coming out the front there? That's why I like using the needle nose, because it tucks it completely in. But that is the way they show you to do it in the book, in school, everything I've seen. Stranded wire, we use black. Alright. When you see stranded wire isn't used too much in residential. Alright, unless you have to have conduit, which I think in California they have to have conduit running through their walls. But around here, the only place you're pretty much going to see stranded wire is if you have like an outlet underground, outside. And a lot of times what they'll use is direct burial wire, which is going to be a solid wire. It's called UF cable. Or they'll put it in conduit and they'll use stranded wire. So the correct way to put stranded wire around the terminal of an outlet. I'll show you the wrong way first. Alright, so you strip some off, you twist it up. Now this is the wrong way, remember this. Make your loop, You put your loop on. And you try as you might, try as you will, you fight this thing around here. Hold it as tight as you can. When you tighten this thing down, it just gets all crazy and wadded up. So the correct way to do it, and this is how it's taught, this isn't my way or my opinion, you go back about 1.5 to 2 inches on the wire. You cut, twist, helps if you use the right one. This is 14 gauge, not 12. And then you pull, and you want it looking right like that. Then you twist it, right? Then you have your loop. Then this loop goes around that wire, and then you can actually hold both ends nice and tight. And then you take your side cutters, wherever the hell they're at, trim off that tail end, and it's a much tighter, much nicer connection. Alright, the last thing I want to show you. Some switches, and I've seen these on outlets too, they have these push-in connectors. You don't have to use these, you use these push-in connectors. I don't use them, I still always use the screws. But the way to use these push-in connectors, if you look right here, that line is a strip gauge. So what you do is you hold your wire against that strip gauge. That tells you how far to strip it off, and I'm going to show you why that's important in a minute. So you hold it against that strip gauge, kind of mark it off with your thumb, roundabouts there. Strip it off. I think I went a little bit long. Let's trim her up. Alright. So then you stick that in there, and now that's held, right? To get it back out, you use a tiny screwdriver in this hole. You stick it in that hole, you pry up, and it comes right back out. Now, why is this length so important? It has to do with surface area and where it grabs it in here. So if you take this and I just stick it in, say I only don't strip off enough and I only stick it in that far, I won't be able to do it by hand, but you can take that wire and pull it back out. That wasn't a lot of force, it was fairly easy. If you do it correctly, and due to their strip gauge, stick it in, it bottoms out against the insulation. Then, I still might be able to pull this out. No, what I was doing was I pulled the insulation. This wire never moved. Let's see what it takes, if I can pull this out at all. Let's get this insulation off of here. Alright, you saw how easily I pulled it out before. Let's see. Okay, I can't pull that out. That's why that's so important. But I don't like to use it. I don't know why. I'm just set in my ways, I guess. But I still always use the screws. That's the safest bet. That's the best way. And thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully this helps somebody. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the next go-around.